You are listening to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all the latest news, Overwatch League results, and mishaps in Overwatch. Here are your hosts, Totemly Drunk and Edinar.
Nope, I gotta switch my my Discord back. There we go. Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome back to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things Overwatch. Now that we're actually displayed properly on Twitch, let me welcome you to the show. This is episode 163, and we'll be discussing the latest in Overwatch, Overwatch esports, see what's buzzing within the community, and so much more. But before we can get into the news and introduce you to my co-host, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who is hanging out with us live tonight on Twitch, and of course to thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host slash co-star, whatever terminology you want to use, who very recently, as of yesterday, joined me in the ATP Winner's Circle, that being none other than Edinar. Ed, welcome to the show.
Why, thank you for having me. I look forward to these appearances on these podcasts as a champion of not only stage 2 of Unlimited, despite what some people might say, but also as the reigning ATP Around the Payload champion. You know what? I feel I need a crown, maybe some entrance music. I believe The Man by The Killers would be very appropriate. So, yeah, no, I'm having a good week. I went through the podcast gauntlet yesterday. So, I did Around the Payload, then we did OWL by the numbers, and then after that I was on OWL Recap, where I got into a lot of fights with Melorina. The name of the episode...
That doesn't sound like you guys at all.
Actually is Mel vs. Ed.
Mm-hmm.
So, go there, download all that. I'm very excited. Have the Overwatch League back tomorrow. It's been kind of boring without it on. Like, I still play games. It's one of those things where I want to play games while having Overwatch League on at the same time.
Right.
So I like playing my games and have a shiny distract me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to that. How about you? How have you been?
I've
had a crazy week.
I've been doing pretty good. I did guest on the Omnic Weekly Sunday afternoon, so that was a good time. I gotta talk about something that we'll actually be talking about later tonight in regards to, like, another tease of them looking to expand the Overwatch universe, which this is not the only time they've actually mentioned this, so it seems like there's going to be a little bit more truth to some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. But, like, it's been a good week. I'm looking forward to seeing the global leaderboard for the Unlimited draft, so, I could throw the fact that there are 2 fantasy Overwatch League podcasters in, like, the top 25, both of which are on this very show. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yep.
But, of course, I saw Thornrain post earlier today, the screenshot before, like, he got approval from Soldrake, and I was like, I was so tempted, like, yeah, nice humble brag, but, like, see, he has the luxury of knowing what our lineup is every week.
Yes.
As is literally everyone, but you know what? As of right now, overall, I can't remember what rank you're at. I know you're, like, top 15, if I'm not mistaken.
15th or 16th.
Okay.
I had a bad first stage.
Yes. A lot of people did, and there were a lot of improvements over the second stage, because I think you had, like, 8,000 roughly, like, higher from stage 1 to stage 2, and I believe I was at, like, 5k higher in regards from stage to
what
stage.
happened was stage 1, week 1, they got rid of.
Right.
Due to something, and I remember my score that week was just insane.
Yeah.
Plus, then I also played Boombox the week he was sick, and I had too much faith in Shock players and Titan players, which you should not have in fantasy.
But do you have a lot of faith in Dynasty and Uprising, because they seem to be upward trending right now? But
although Dynasty, we talked about this last night, I don't have all the faith in the world in them until I see what roster they're actually going to be bringing out.
I'll stick to my guns, but I'm looking forward to seeing the leaderboard so I can see like how many players it is, so I can see like what top percentile we are in, because I know, Thornrain is first, you're 15th or 16th, and I'm currently ranked 4th overall on highnoon.gg in Unlimited. So I'm curious to see like what the player base is in regards to the people that look to be playing each week, and that would be pretty obvious to tell based on the point totals, through the mid-season break at this point. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the news for tonight. So first up, we got a little bit of merchandise news, and this is in regards to the Good Smile company who releases the Nendoroid figures, and that line is going to continue to grow. And they're actually going to be celebrating this year's anniversary event by releasing the Academy Diva for the Nendoroid line. So much like her in-game version, Diva is going to be rocking those pink headphones. The figure will have 3 interchangeable faceplates, removable glasses. Of course, you have the light gun, and there's a miniature version of her pink mech, which is also designed based off of that skin as well. And, as per usual, like, it's going to be a while before you get this, like most of the pre-order stuff. But the pre-orders are available right now on the Blizzard Gear Store for $49.99, with the figure shipping out Q1 of 2020. So, it's, let's see, we're in June?
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at, like, 6 to 10 months from now. But I have to say, like, out of all the Nendoroids, I think this one is one that actually stands out against, the rest of the pack. I'm glad to see them actually branching out and doing more event-specific stuff, because I like more of the event stuff than I do just the base skins of the game, so I'm happy to see them at least add in more iterations in regards to these merchandise lines. So I don't know if I'm going to shell out $50, but, like, this is going to be something that, like, if they do, like, one of the sales where, like, maybe they mark them down to, like, $30 or whatever they normally do for an Nendoroid, then I'll definitely go out and get it then. But I have to say, I'm pretty happy with this design, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be looking at this one, primarily just due to the fact that it is a Diva.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. It's weird to me that the mech, Diva's mech, is so much smaller than actual Diva. It reminded me of Zoolander when he built the model school. Like, what is this, a school for ants? That's what this Diva mech reminds me of. But like you said, it's another one of those $50 toys that you can get in 7 to 10 months that you're gonna order, forget you ordered it, and it's gonna show up in the mail, and you're gonna be like, all right, cool, I got this. Whereas, like, it's probably gonna go on discount. Like, this is the type of thing where wait, because the second half of the year is when they really start to discount these items.
Yeah, that's usually when it's, like, anywhere from, like, 15 to, like, upwards of 35% at times. Sometimes even more than that, but it is going to be dependent on what the item actually is.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we will see a massive price dip in a lot of this stuff once the Overwatch League season is over and the hype around Overwatch kind of dies down a little. And they want to lower the price to get a little bit more revenue during the off season, because during the off season, Overwatch isn't that huge. Because, well, people don't like the gameplay that is going on right now. So, but, I would wait on this until, September, October. There's generally a lot of sales that come up around BlizzCon. Even BlizzCon itself, you could probably get it discounted. So I would hold off on this, but, it's a pretty cool one. I will give it that.
So we also had our dev and savior, Papa Jeffy Cap, praise him. He took to the forums to let us know more about the workshop mode, at least in regards to what the community has been playing as of late. And I'm going to take full credit for this, because the most played workshop mode in North America and Europe just so happens to be one that we covered here recently. That being none other than Uno. So players have logged in 1,370 hours and 1,556 matches of Uno, and it has a pretty wide margin in regards to the lead. So there are 2 other game modes that have clocked in over 1,000 hours of playtime. So that includes Lava Parkour, where you're basically having players jump into checkpoints as a number of different heroes. There's also the McCree Hot Potato game, which is a pretty fun one, where you're basically passing around in Imagine Flamin' Potato. So I definitely recommend checking that one out as well. And rounding out the top 5, we have Hammond Racing. Not too much of a surprise there. And that one's pretty much self-explanatory. I believe that one was on... I think that's the Numbani one, where you're trying to reach the end of the map and you can use your grappling hook. And then we also have the gun game, which we know was later turned into the Hero Gauntlet. And that's been kind of part of the rotating arcade mode. Because they seem to have, like, that one and then, like, the Mirror Deathmatch primarily, in regards to the arcade rotation. Now, what I found interesting about this is, yeah, they list NA and EU, but then they also listed the most played workshop modes in Korea, and, like, the totals between the two is so drastically different. Whether it's just games played, you know, hours played, the average amount of people in the lobby. Because when I was looking at the Korea one, you basically have, like, the entire top 10 of the Korean workshop modes having more logged playtime than even, like, the top one from NA and EU, which I thought was interesting. And the one at Korea's high end is something called High Blood Pressure Marathon. Now, this is not one that I have tried, but basically, it kind of looks like a spin-off of, like, Total Mayhem, where it gives players infinite ultimates, you have no cooldowns, and there's, like, some other, like, wacky iterations kind of thrown into that mode. What those are, I'm not entirely too sure, but that one has a staggering amount of time at 5,447 hours. That's a long time. That's 4 times more than what we're seeing with Uno.
I mean, yeah. One of the things is, you're seeing a much smaller list from Korea than you are from NA and EU. So I think it's more along the lines of there's more people in NA and EU building multitude of workshop modes or different variations or iterations. Because like if you look at it, there's the floor is lava parkour. Like those are both in the top 10. You know, they have 20 in NAEU and they have 8-9 for Korea. So I think that might have something to do with it. Also, I feel they probably play Overwatch a little bit more than us. I'm going out on a limb. Like, South Korea is notorious for, you know, having 10, 12-hour gaming sessions for a single game. Like, look at League of Legends, StarCraft, Warcraft, like, all that stuff over there. Like, you have people going on, you know, 12, 24-hour binges over there. So it could be something along that lines. The High Blood Pressure Marathon literally is the most unappealing game to me of all time. I would rather play Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah, like, cause, like, even when, like, Total Mayhem is in the arcade, I know you and I just don't even bother to look at it.
I want to avoid it like the plague.
Because I feel like nothing ever dies in that game mode in particular. And I would imagine it would be the same case in High Blood Pressure.
Yeah, I would not, like, if I'm going to play Total Mayhem or a version of that, I'm going to play the one in arcade that I get loot boxes for. Like, come on, get a little bit more, you know, think a little bit more outside the box. You know, it's nice to see, like, you get the Super Smash Brothers, the Flappy Bird, stuff like that in there, and you see them towards the bottom, but it's kind of surprising. Like, yes, those are fan favorites in theory. Like, people like the idea of playing them, but they aren't actually playing them. Whereas the games where Uno, Floor is Lava, McCree Hot Potato, Gun Game, Those kind of games are the ones people actually want to play because it offers something even more unique. With like, you're not being like, okay, let's play Super Smash Brothers, but with Overwatch characters. Go play Super Smash Brothers. Like, there's really no difference there, except you're using Overwatch heroes and it's not as refined. Like, it's good in theory, but people just probably play it once or twice and then they're done with it. But these other modes have more of a replayability, especially Gun Game. Like, Gun Game has... I mean, I fully expect Gun Game to be part of arcade mode and part of the All-Star game next year. Like, when I was on around the payload yesterday with Hexagrams, he kind of agreed with that. Like, he's like, people love the arcade modes, they love the workshop modes, and was like talking about how the Thursday night events are more popular for the players and the fans than the actual All-Star game.
Right.
And like was talking about how the workshop can help all of that. So like we've kind of been saying, they need to have workshop mode games in the All-Star game weekend. And I think Gun Game, honestly, any of these, Floor is Lava, McCree Hot Potato, Hammond Racing, Gun Game, all of these games could, in theory, be phenomenal games in arcade or the All-Star game. So keep it up, everyone. The one we're going to talk about here in a little bit is very intriguing to me.
Yeah, we do have a couple, as we tend to have, pretty much every single week since the workshop mode came out. And that's something too. Like I feel like, we definitely talked about how like this was going to be like one of the biggest features at Overwatch's release since the game has come out, and just seeing the amount of reception that the community has, and seeing people like Darwin, who has kind of been like one of the primary focuses. Who by the way, I know Darwin and Stylosa had interviewed the workshop designers here a couple of days ago, so I'll probably try to link that in the show notes as well. I highly recommend you guys check that out. But like, it's just crazy to see like how much the community has really been engaging with this workshop mode, and I can't wait to see where exactly this is going to go, a couple months down the line, when we've already seen so much already kind of like at the forefront with this overall. So before we talk about those game modes, let's talk about something that did drop on Monday. We did get a new patch. This was on June 3rd. And this was more of a bug fix patch, and I know one of these was something that you had mentioned to me the other day in regards to Torbjorn and his turret placement. So this is actually something that they look to fix with this current patch. So what has been going on with Torbjorn as of late, outside of obviously his alternate fire being ridiculous?
All right, so what's been going on with him is on certain maps, I believe it was the most popular one is Volskaya, and I was not aware that it was also happening on Dorado. You could set his turret up in certain places, and it would shoot through the walls. So you couldn't aim at it or target it to kill it, and it would be shooting at you. Like the popular one was in Volskaya, if you know the bridge to the right of the point, the higher up bridge that like a lot of people go to get high ground. Right there was this one wall that you could place it up against, and it would shoot down at the choke point that they would have to come through on point A, and you just be getting all this damage. So it's one of those things where, yeah, it was a bug. People were reporting it. It's been known for a while. They just took their sweet time to get around to fix it. But at least it's fixed now. So it's just another one of those things. You're always going to have bugs. People are always going to find stuff like this. It's just a matter of how quick people can figure it out. And then Blizzard fixes it.
Perfect. So they were pretty quick on that one. One of the other major bugs that they fixed in this one was a bug where Ash wasn't gaining any ultimate charge while Bob existed. So anytime Bob was out, potentially doing something, Ash was just stuck at 0% and not actually building towards that next ultimate. Seems like a pretty big bug. because ultimates are pretty powerful in the game. Like that's always kind of just been the case. So outside of that, I know there were some deathmatch bug fixes as well, but nothing like major to note outside of that. But the Torbjorn probably being the biggest one, since that had been kind of a recurrent issue here as of late. But
question.
Yeah.
Now, there are other characters, I want to say Symmetra is one of them, that when you hit their ults, and it's out there, it doesn't just go away, like Symmetra when she has her ult, when she puts up the wall, they don't gain ultimate charge while that is up. Or am I losing my mind? Like, there's some characters that you don't gain ultimate while your ultimate is in use, essentially.
To be honest, Ed, I don't recall off the top of my head.
Okay.
Primarily because I don't play Symmetra.
Yeah,
outside of Mystery Heroes.
Like Symmetra, Bastion is another obvious one where you're not gaining ult charge while you're using his ult. But it's a pretty nice change. I actually expected you to not get ult charge while Bob was out, because I just assumed you're using your ult. Why are you gaining ult charge while you're using your ult? So I don't know. Maybe that's just me being crazy, as always, because we all know me. I'm me. I'm the Bren of Overwatch podcasts. That's what I got called that twice last night.
Yeah, well, all I hear is a bird in the background.
Stupid birds.
But anyways, shifting back to the workshop, I want to talk about two new game modes that have really piqued my interest here as of late. The first one was done by the user Gibliomatic, who used the workshop to tackle the classic bullet hell genre. And if you're not familiar with that, that is a top-down shooter where players are looking to avoid massive waves of projectiles. So this mode takes place above Legion Tower's Gardens Point, and it pits two teams of up to 6 players against one another. Now, the goal for each team is to do a couple of things. You're looking to survive the incoming projectiles, and you're also looking to take out the enemies. Now, there is a control zone in this bullet hell that is marked by a red square, and if you hold that zone, you're going to be earning points for your team, and then the first team to reach 120 points is the decided winner. Now, if you want to check this one out, the import code for Bullet Hell is VHOFQ, and I do know that Gibliomatic is looking to expand this mode further to create some deathmatch FFA with hazards, as well as a more traditional single-player scrolling bullet hell, which, if you've ever played a bullet hell single-player-wise, it's not only are you trying to avoid the hazards and whatnot, but you're also having boss fights as well. So I'm really curious to see what the different iterations of this one in particular are going to be, but that bullet hell subgenre has always been something that I have gravitated towards. And I know, like, on my Switch, primarily, like, whenever I'm just looking on the store, that seems to be something that's always recurring, that there's always a new bullet hell game coming out, and I'm definitely going to be checking out this one pretty soon. So who knows, maybe this might be one that we're going to be looking at in regards to our game night, but probably more so the next one we'll talk about.
No. Do I have a say in this? Can I say no? I don't know. I've never been a bullet hell type of fan. I mean, what is it? What was the old school game where you had to shoot the space invaders?
I like how you didn't even finish what you were saying.
I was about to say, like, the one where you shoot the space invaders. And I'm like, wait, that's the name of it, Space Invaders. Like, those type of games, like, because I consider that like an early form of bullet hell. To some degree, and I've just never been a huge fan of them. I don't like being like all panicky during a game, like, oh, you gotta run this way. Nope, that's not me. So I don't know. This is gonna be right there with Super Smash Brothers and me for the. Can we stick that in the no column for game nights?
So you say no to Bullet Hell, but yes to Mech Wars.
Yes.
Okay, so this one is pretty interesting. So this actually was inspired by a suggestion from Jake. You know, everyone's favorite Houston Outlaws player. So this one was designed by Darwin, basically the godfather of the workshop mode. And this new one basically gives everyone the experience of that second chance that Diva has after her mech is destroyed. So basically what happens, in Mech Wars, every hero gets that D-Mech mechanic. So players start as whatever hero of their choice, but when they are knocked down to 1 HP, then they are basically tossed into the air as Tracer, and are looking to regain their original character by generating ultimate charge. So of course, just like with Baby Diva, when you are Tracer here, you do not have any of your other abilities. You are relying solely on your weapon to reclaim that initial character. And the import code for this one is 9VP1P. Now, Ed, I have to say, like, this one really cracked me up when I saw it. I was like, you know what? That's pretty interesting. I think this one's definitely one of the more original ones. I know there were a couple of other ones that I was kind of like looking at. Like there was a Torbjorn basketball game that came out when you're trying to play as Farron trying to boop Torbjorn into like a giant hoop, which I thought was pretty funny. But this one looks like a lot of fun, and Darwin has kind of been at the forefront of a lot of the most popular workshop modes that have been going around right now, and he seems to be just ahead of the curve in regards to the mode as a whole.
Oh, totally. And I guess one thing you should talk about is when you have Tracer, to get back, like, you can get back into your mech form. So, like, if you're Reinhardt, you get knocked out as Tracer, you can get back into Reinhardt mode. You have to build up your ult, and you have to hit your Q button as Tracer, which throws out a bomb, but the bomb doesn't do anything. But that triggers you to go back into being Reinhardt.
Mm-hmm.
This just seems so much fun. Like, the one that just looked like complete and utter hell, but so fun, was the Widowmaker one. So, like, you have to take down it's Widow versus Widow, and then you're like, oh, I got their Widow. Now I have to take out their Tracer. And then they get to go back into Widow. Like, this is crap. This is going to be a never-ending cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like a lot of fun. Darwin, God bless you. You are really coming out with some of the best workshop modes that we've seen.
Yeah, and I love seeing that there are just content creators out there specifically focusing on the workshop mode as well.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I would say that I would actually like to see changed on this is I wish it would be almost like mystery heroes, like Mech Wars.
So you respawn
like,
as a random hero?
You respawn as a random hero. So you have the Tracer that has no abilities, and then you have to do damage and whatnot to get another hero back, and then you get a mystery hero. That could be even more interesting. But, you know, we'll see what happens from it. I'm sure there's some sort of weird variation of that out there.
All right, well, moving into this week's Talk Community topics, there's two major things that have been going on. One of which is esports specific, but let's first talk about a recent article that was in Game Informer with Blizzard president J. Allen Brack, who revealed to Game Informer that the developers have more games in development than ever before, which is something that we have talked about here in the past. And Blizzard is looking to use the Overwatch universe to expand into new games. Now, I do have a quote here from this article, and J. Allen Brack says that we think about the Overwatch IP as being extremely large and extremely all-encompassing. Overwatch, the game people experience today, is just being a very small part of what the IP could be. Now, you know, of course, for a while now, the community has really been looking for an expanded experience, which, you know, a lot of people have been looking for a single-player mode outside of, you know, what we've gotten with, like, Drunken Science Revenge, things like that. A lot of people are looking for them to expand the in-game lore through a single-player experience. And what I found interesting is that Brack specifically mentioned that the developers are focusing on opening up Overwatch to find new directions that they can take the game in. So, of course, when it comes to Blizzard, we've kind of seen, like, this cycle. We saw what happened with, Warcraft and then spawning Dota. Of course, we've seen like other franchises kind of branch off and come into like completely new titles. Like obviously, like Hearthstone is completely Warcraft based. So there's a lot of different directions that they could take this. Now, this is not the only time that they've mentioned this. So it really drives the point home that this is something that they are seriously looking into at this point, rather than us just being speculative earlier on. So, where do you envision Blizzard taking the Overwatch universe outside of what we have in the game right now?
See, and this is where it gets tricky, because a lot of the genres of video games, Blizzard has already tried.
Right.
So you have the RTS already. You had the MOBA, or still have the MOBA. I don't really know.
It's classic.
It's classic. You have the card game. You have the MMORPG, obviously, World of Warcraft, kind of a big game. You have the FPS. You have to look into different genres now. Like, the most obvious one that sticks out, and it's so cliched, is a battle royale.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is something that we could very likely hear about at BlizzCon.
I'm iffy about that, primarily just due to the fact that I feel like they'd be getting into that subgenre too late at this point.
Yeah. We could get a single player mode. Like, almost like a God of War type of thing, where there's going to be no additions to it. There's going to be no next expansions. It's just going to be this game. They may come out with another one in a few years from now, type of situation. And they could do something like that, but I don't think we're anywhere close to that being done. So I don't know what they could really truly do, because they already have so many genres in their back pocket. They could do some form of a sport game. I guess maybe like when you talk like Lucio Ball. Now, God help us if that becomes a thing. But you're talking stuff like that. Like, imagine NBA jams with Overwatch players. Something stupid like that. Now, the one we're not talking about though is some form of mobile game.
Which, honestly, is probably the most likely.
Yes, I just don't know where they would go with a mobile game. Like, what type of mobile game would they do? If they did some form of, and this is something I've wanted for a long time. I don't know if there's a couple like what I call collection games out there on mobile. So you have Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which is one of the most popular games on phones out there, period. And then you have Marvel has one, Disney even has one, and they're all popular. I mean, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes is the most popular, but like that is something that Blizzard as a whole could get into, not just Overwatch, because you could bring in heroes from Diablo, Warcraft, Hearthstone, Overwatch, StarCraft, Lost Vikings. You could kind of go Hearthstone with it and combine everything into this mobile game that is, it's hard to explain a collection game outside of saying it's a collection game. So I highly recommend checking out some collection games. Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, very good game. But what do you think? What kind of games would you expect them to possibly come up with?
Just because you were talking about mobile, like some of the other like mobile genres that are still very popular, like Match 3 games are still really popular. That goes without saying, primarily just due to Candy Crush. I know like there's a Marvel one that I play from time to time on Steam, Like a lot of the idle type, like tap games, are also still really popular as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them do that. And of course, a lot of those, you could like spend money to get power ups, but you're basically just constantly trying to beat your new like stage max and then proceed into basically like become stronger. But I'm gonna go with one that I personally want, and this is something that I talked about on the Omnic Weekly this week. I want a goddamn Blizzcart. It needs to happen. Now, I will note, Ed, there are workshop modes for Mario Kart already. I've played a couple of them. I've not been overly impressed by them.
I mean, if you're going Mario Kart with Blizzcart, I'm going Blizz Party.
Yeah,
Like
that's the other. That's another option too.
That would be super fun.
Then then you can get really pissed off at your friends, and then never hang out with them again.
Throw your Wii remote because you all did
through the TV.
Yeah, like you got pissed off and you threw that Wii remote playing Mario Party against your friends because you know what, you were doing the, for lack of better words, the jerk off game, where you literally had to like go like this as quick as possible, and oddly enough,
let's not forget also on Mario Party in the N64 one, there was one game when you're having to motion around the joystick, you know?
Yep. You're just like, ooh, look at this. Yeah.
You just have to do it very rapidly in order to win, and then you would hurt your hand trying to win that minigame in particular.
So, I mean, oh god, that went off the rails. But, they could go really any route. But I think the one everyone kind of wants is a single-player game that is a story mode. That gives us more story. And it would be a way of introducing new characters into actual Overwatch through introducing them in the first, like, the single-player game mode.
Right.
And that way they could still have it on the Blizzard launcher. But, I mean, they could go wacky with all of this. Like you said, Blizzcart.
Nope. That was peculiar. Hold on, guys. Let me get the call back up. Yeah, Discord broke, guys. Give us 2 minutes really quick. We're gonna try to fix this. Alright, looks like we're good.
Yeah, it literally
that
just
was
like
really random.
I'm like, there's no way I'm talking with my hands. I didn't hit anything.
Right,
To end
I
the
know,
call.
I didn't either. I was like, wait a minute, where'd Ed go? But anyways, as you were kind of in the middle of a tangent there.
Well, it wasn't a tangent. It was more like, I mean, we talked about the jerk off game in Mario Party.
Yeah.
And then we
also the rub down. You can't forget that one.
The rub down. But like they could go any direction with all of this. Single player mode is probably the way they go. At first, I think they have broader ideas. If you're just talking just Overwatch, if you're talking just Overwatch, I think it's a single player game. And if you're talking more of a Blizzard IP, you're talking more mobile game at that point. Because I think to do a mobile game, they would include they would include Warcraft, Diablo, StarCraft, Overwatch, those kind of players. So I think if you're going just Overwatch, it's got to be a single player mode.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm still gonna hold out hope for our Overwatch Dream Daddy dating sim, which was another one that I brought up. Maybe Sugar Dad will be in there. You never know.
CGN in chat, CGN Trenchfoot said a May dating sim.
See,
I'm pretty sure Rule 34 is in effect with that one already.
I mean, they've been dropping the ball lately. You know, I'm still waiting on a certain police on police action. So, you know, who knows? But yeah, I'm pretty sure like someone's actually like made Overwatch dating sims, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure you can find them on the internet. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in competitive Overwatch. We got some pretty big news after the Atlantic Showdown. So just to get everyone caught up to speed, the Atlantic Showdown took place here over this past weekend. And it was Fusion University who continued to impede their will against the top competition. And they took home the win there. That was their 5th championship in just under 2 years as a team. They picked up wins over Angry Titans, who of course won Contenders Europe. They also beat Team Envy, who had won the other NA region. And with that win, Fusion University secured an additional representative for North America at the Gauntlet, which we talked about last week. That's going to be taking place in October, back at the old Apex Stomping Grounds. Now, just like Australia, there's another region that lost their only spot due to their placement in the showdown, and that was South America, because Low-Key Esports was knocked out really early. You also had Europe lose a spot due to the fact that British Hurricane had a disappointing 5th place finish. They had a really awesome series against Team Envy in the upper bracket, which went to 5 maps. And then it got swept by ATL Academy in the lower bracket, so, feels EU, man. So, you know, it really was Angry Titans being EU's best hope, but they got knocked out into the lower bracket after being swept by Fusion University in the upper bracket. And there, they went on a little bit of a run, but they did fall to Team Envy in the lower bracket finals, which was a 3-1 finish to set up that all-NA final. So, you know, there was a lot of trash talk about NA versus EU. Angry Titans were essentially playing in their house, because it was at Take TV, which is where they're located. So, they lost in their own building, which, that's a definite rough go. So, in regards to the Gauntlet, we do know, like, what the breakdown in regards to the region slots is going to be. So, Korea is going to have 3 teams. We have 1 team from China, the Pacific, and Europe. And then NA has 4 spots, and that's divided 2 for the East and 2 for the West. Now, the bigger news to come out of the Atlantic Showdown is after Fusion Uni basically mudhole stomped everyone, they had a pretty big announcement of their own, and that is the fact that they're moving on to a new challenge. So Fusion University decided that they are going to leave the North American Overwatch circuit, and they are going to be competing in Trials Korea. And, you know, I know they had a flight delay, so their first match was postponed, so they haven't actually competed as of yet. But this is a team that has basically beat the absolute best in NA. They beat the best teams in EU during the Atlantic Showdown, so they're just trying to add another feather to their cap. But it's a risk, you know? It's an American team. I'm gonna do air quotes, because they're mostly Korean. But they're not going to be guaranteed a slot in the Showdown, or in the Gauntlet in October due to this move. And they're gonna have to finish in the top 2 in order to make Contenders Korea. But, of course, we've seen a dominance from Fusion Uni. At one point, they had a 30-game win streak, which is probably never going to be broken, at least in the path to pro. And 4 of their 6 current players are from South Korea, so they're trying to do this not only for the challenge, but to also avoid the region lock that was introduced this year. So had they stayed in NA after the grandfathered rule came into effect, they would have to make some adjustments to their roster, and this is the best way for them to keep as much of their roster intact And this is going to mean a couple of things. One, Kart is 17, and due to whatever, Korean laws there are in regards to working in the country, if you're underage, you cannot compete in the country, so he's not going to be joining Fusion University for Trials Korea. And we do have Elk rejoining Fusion Uni, so I don't know how much rust he's going to have, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on when they do play. But Trials kicked off this week, and this is going to be a tall order, even though, there's only, a couple of relegated contenders teams in regards to Trials Korea. I know Geekstar is one of them. I think the other one was Meta Athena, who actually dropped Tour U, so there's a good chance that he is going to be rejoining Fusion University for Trials as well. But Ed, I know there's been a lot of talk about this in particular. I know you've had a different point of view in regards to kind of the way Fusion Uni kind of decided to nope out of this. So why don't you go ahead and tell me your thoughts on the actual shift to Korea?
Okay, so I'm going to start this off by saying there's one thing that can make me less pissed off at Fusion University, and that is if they aren't allowed to keep their Atlantic Showdown spot in the gauntlet. I think it's crappy that you qualify for the gauntlet in the Atlantic Showdown representing the US and then be like, nope, I'm going to Korea, but we're still going to compete in the gauntlet as an NA team. No, that shouldn't be allowed. So if they come in and be like, you aren't allowed to compete, you have to earn your way through, the Pacific, whatever, because they have that extra spot in Korea. Good for them. They should not be allowed to play representing the Atlantic, or NA in this case. So that is my one huge, okay, that's shitty of you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of uncertainty about that, too. We don't know how it's going to work yet, from what I'm aware of.
Because, honestly, I don't know if they, contenders knew what was going on when they came up with the rules. And now they're just like, what do we do now? If you read the twit longer that Tucker, the owner of Fusion University, put out, he threw ridiculous amounts of shade at Overwatch League, especially saying why they're going there. They're like, the amount of money that you make for a contenders team, you can't afford to pay the players, pay for housing, and all that stuff. And we've literally won everything.
Yeah, that's coming from someone that hasn't dropped anything, who have had the max prize pool, basically.
Yeah, they would have been forced to drop some of their core players. And he's like, we're in contenders to develop, and we're not in contenders to develop NA talent for other Overwatch League teams. Mm-hmm. Some that don't even have contenders teams because it's expensive. We're in it to develop talent for the Fusion. Developing region-specific talent is Blizzard's job, World Cup, etc. The contenders prize pool doesn't even cover a tiny fraction of what we spend on players, coaches, and things like housing, and we've won every single thing. So, if this is throwing Blizzard under the bus right now, they're basically saying, listen, you want contenders to be a thing, but if one team wins every tournament for 3 years or 3 seasons, and they can't even afford to really run this effectively, then there's a huge flaw in your planning. You can't expect these teams to actually have contenders teams and be like, okay, you're all gonna, unless you somehow win everything, plus win more outside of that, plus get sponsorships, plus get deals like that. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to break even if you do that.
Yeah,
everyone else, you're going to lose money.
I do want to note how many academy teams we have seen fold in between, this past season and the new one that will be starting up soon. We've seen 5 or 6 teams at this point that are affiliate teams. Most recently being Guangzhou Academy, who were I think announced it here in the last week as well. So more and more people are basically taking the rest of the year off in order to just focus on their Overwatch League team and get prepared for the geolocation come 2020.
Yeah, and honestly, I'll say this. I will go out on the limb. Overwatch League doesn't give two shits about contenders. Because if they did, they'd actually promote it.
Yeah, like they
And they don't do that.
hosted some of the
No,
contender stuff sometimes on Overwatch League, but it was never physically promoted, and it wasn't consistent when they did host either.
Actually, it wasn't a host. They straight up just showed the finals of Fusion University versus Team Envy on the Overwatch League Twitch channel.
Mm-hmm.
And that had 17 or 18,000 viewers.
Which is more than what Tier 2 would normally get.
Yes. And that was just like out of nowhere, no like advertising, nothing. Put it on your launcher, put it in game, do something. That type of stuff does not cost you a lot to put it on the Blizzard launcher. That costs probably nothing for them because they own it. It costs the amount of money to make the graphic to put on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to have somebody be like, show this stream. Okay. That's all you have to do. Yet they're not even doing that. And then we're wondering why all these contenders teams are, disbanding, dropping. Like the Mayhem Academy is the only team to ever beat Fusion University. Only team. And they're like, nope, we're out.
That's outside of a show match between Fusion Unity and British Hurricane, which British Hurricane won.
Yes, in actual tournament play. But they're even like, okay, no, we're good. We're not going to do this anymore. And they're kind of falling back on we're going towards an all Korean roster, when actually they're probably jumping for joy that they don't have to pay for that crap anymore because it's a money pit.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too. Like, you look at other esports in regards to their competitive scene, and there's esports out there that have, like skin designs for the pro teams, or sprays, or like gun skins as well. And even if they were to incorporate stuff specifically just for like the affiliate teams, that could go a very long way in bringing more money to the tier 2 scene. But we just haven't seen them even talk about that approach at all. So it's basically like leaving money on the table at that point. And I know a lot of people have been upset just with the way that, Overwatch as a whole just kind of like treats the tier 2 community. And there was another thing that I briefly want to mention about Path to Pro. I don't know if you saw this, but IoStux, who has been on a couple of Academy teams, had this Twitter post. And he was basically going to start what he was calling IoStux Academy. And he basically posted like this entire article. And I kid you not, Eddie, he was basically running down everything about Tier 2 and how, like, everyone is complete trash. You'll have to find it on Twitter after we're done recording, because, like, it made me just shake my head. I was like, what is he doing? First, he tries to get everyone to read, like, 60 pages worth of GOATS analysis, and then he just runs down literally everyone in the Tier 2, Tier 3 scene. What are you doing, man?
Right? One other thing I will say, the one thing Overwatch could actually do to help the Tier 2 scene is change the way that Tier 2 contenders teams, like affiliate teams, work with actual Overwatch League teams. Because right now, it's like you have this team, but they can kind of sign with whoever they want if they're getting moved up. Don't allow that. You make it a true minor league system. Then you're gonna have these people who are gonna be like, okay, we're gonna sign these talents to minor league deals essentially, and then we know that we control them essentially, like they're on our team, and not like we're gonna work with them so they can sign with another team, which is part of one of the Fusion University said, and like part of the reason Flower is in the Overwatch League is because they didn't want him to leave at the end of the stage or whatever season in contenders to go to another team. Whereas if he's signed with New York Excelsior or XL2 Academy on like a 2-year deal, he's like kind of their property almost. Like you have that in so many, like, and you have that in baseball. You have that to some degree in basketball with the G League. You don't have that in football, but I think you really need it in football. And you have that in hockey. Like, you have minor league teams. And they can't just be like, oh, well, I'm going to go sign with this team. Screw you guys. But that's kind of how it is in the Overwatch League. If these teams could have, like, a second roster that they could groom, train, and scout themselves, and they knew that they weren't going to immediately lose them if they were good to another team, then they might be more willing to take the loss in money.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, a lot of minor league teams do not make money. That's why they run, you see all these minor league baseball teams run crazy promotions just to get people in the seats, because they have to pay all these players and, you know, have all the facilities and travel and stuff like that, but nobody's coming to the games. So those are not money makers. So I think Overwatch League needs to kind of do something like that to get contenders back on track. Also up the prize money. Come on. You're doing just fine, Blizzard.
Yeah, BlizzBucks does not cover it. So it's like, yeah, I just spent 3 months to earn $25.
Like, it's one of those things where and you're like, you saw this. I saw this today in Magic the Gathering. They just decided for all these massive, like, tournaments they're having. They're just like, oh, okay, well, we're having this tournament, and you're invited to play in it, but you have to pay for everything yourself. And I'm like, no. Like, you're requiring them to come to you. It's basically like saying, okay, you all have to be in Dallas, Houston, Seoul, you know, all those places, but you have to pay your own way to get from city to city, and we're going to require you to do it.
Kind of reminds me of the World Cup.
Weird how that works.
But anyways, I know we can talk about this more, but let's see what else is going on in the Overwatch League lately. So, yesterday, we got a lot of teases in regards to jersey designs, which I'm really excited about. So we got our first look at alternate jerseys that are going to be released, hopefully soon. So we had multiple teams taking to Twitter to post cropped pictures showing off some of the designs, or bulges, depending on who was looking at it.
It was the battle of the bulges.
Pretty much.
It was weird.
So, you know, we did see like 8 or 9 teams, I think, at this point. So LA Valiant were the first ones, and their design featured the teal color, which is the same color as their parent company, of course, that being Immortals Gaming Club. Atlanta's one was like very pink. You know, they were focusing on, you know, the peach aspect of Georgia, which I thought was very fitting. And I have to say, like, I really love the ones that the Dragons did, because they just, like, went into, like, paint to do, like, the design and then tweeted about it. I thought that was pretty good. But basically, like, all of the tweets were featuring the tag of MMXIX for, you know, the year for 2019. And they kind of, like, listed the size of the jersey, and then it also had Grandmaster, which looks to be the name of this alternate jersey line that will be coming out. Now, in regards to any release information, nothing has been posted about that as of yet. We don't know who the manufacturers for these jerseys are, whether it is Fanatics, which is probably going to be likely, much to our dismay, or if they're going to go to, like, Into the AM, but we got a lot of different looks, Ed, and I know one of them that I know was already mentioned in the chat, you know, was for the Mayhem, who seemed to be teasing something that they kind of had an April Fool's joke about prior, so I don't know if this is a continued debate, or if they are actually going this direction.
I actually think they're going to go that direction. So what I think this is, and you're starting to see this more and more in professional sports, is you have certain, like, throwback jersey days, or color, I forgot the name of the NFL ones, but like color mode jerseys or something like that, where you have like special occasion unique jerseys, like one-offs, like you have one match a year for it, or one match a stage where you wear these special jerseys. That is what these can do. They're kind of like their home jersey 2.0, and they don't wear them as much. So I could definitely see this being the case, where Florida Mayhem obviously are probably going to stick with the yellow and black, but they could go, all Don Johnson on us once or twice in stage 3 and 4.
I could see something with this. So this is obviously something we're going to touch up on in a little bit, but they are introducing, like, the match of the week. Maybe they can tie in the alternate jerseys and have the teams wearing them for those specifically.
Yeah, it's like the perfect example of something like this is actually the Milwaukee Brewers. So the Brewers used to, like 2 years ago, wear every Sunday, just on Sundays, their old throwback uniform, the blue and white pinstripes with the yellow glove, whatever, MB on their hat. And then they just would only play it on Sundays. That's it. Became so popular, they actually changed it to their full-time uniform. But, like, that's what they would do, is every Sunday they'd have special uniforms just for those games, for home games only. So that is where I see them going with this. God, I really wish the Mayhem would go Miami Vice on us. It'd be so cool. I think it would instantly be a top 5 selling jersey.
You know what? We should try to get LP from the Omnic Weekly on, since he is their event manager, and we can grill him about it.
Yes, get him. Like, I'm interested. Like, I know everyone trashes Fanatics. I actually don't dislike my jerseys.
I mean, to be honest, I haven't had any issues with mine yet. But, like, I haven't had issues with any of my jersey designs, regardless of what company it's been. I don't know if people are just not caring for them, or they're just wearing them.
It's all right. People hate it because, well, the Atlanta Raid one was poorly designed.
Well, yeah.
And people jumped on the hate train because Reddit jumped on the hate train, and we all know what Reddit is. So, like, I have not had any issues with anything I've gotten from Fanatics, and that's even outside of Overwatch League gear.
Right.
Like, I own Packer gear from them. Like, my hat that I wear from time to time, that's from Fanatics, and it's perfectly fine. I enjoy it. It fits well. It's made of good material. The only knock that we actually have on these jerseys is not the quality of the jersey, it's the look of the jersey. And that's not on Fnatic. That's on the actual teams, because they have to approve that stuff. Fnatic isn't like, let's go rogue and make our own stuff and not even, ask the Atlanta Reign what they think of this jersey that we're putting out. No, they have to get approval from the teams. But nobody's complaining that the fabric of them is crap, or that it took too long for it to show up in the mail. So, I don't know. I have no problem with Fnatic at all. That's my rant for the day.
All right, well, moving on, guys. Of course, there's been a lot of buzz about the grand finals. I mean, we kind of know what patch stage 3 is going to be played on, which pretty much cements the fact that we'll probably have a rematch. Chances are, probably going to see Titan Shock. Maybe you'll see them play at the grand finals, which are going to be happening on September 29th, as we mentioned in recent episodes. But tickets are going to be going on sale on Friday, June 7th. Now, I do want to note, if you guys are listening to us live, there is a pre-sale going on today only. And that is Wednesday, June 5th. And if you use the code BEST, you can do the pre-sale. And that's primarily for people who have snagged Overwatch League tickets in the past, or if you attended the grand final. So there is a caveat to that, so just keep that in mind. But if you did go to any of the games, or if you went to the grand finals, you can go snag your tickets now. I know Spider was talking about him getting his tickets already. He's trying to get media passes. We'll see what comes from that. But it's unfortunate that I'm not going to be able to go again. One of these years I'll make it out at some point. But they do have tickets, and the basic ones start at $49. And I know, like, they have, like, the ultimate master seats. I think they got, like, upwards of, like, $300 for some of the packages across the board. But, we'll see how quickly these go in regards to when they are on sale and when we sell out. But the tickets will be made available through the Wells Fargo Center website, so be sure to check that out either tonight or on Friday when tickets actually do go on sale.
I mean, me personally, if I actually could go, I already have my vacation planned out. And I actually think this weekend, yes, this weekend I'll actually be in DC, which is unfortunate because if Spider's going to Philadelphia while I'm going to the DC
You're gonna
area,
miss
it'd
him.
be like what the hell? But if I was actually going to this, I would splurge on the $300 ticket.
All I got out of that is the fact that Spider is going to choose the Overwatch League over our network.
Yeah, a-hole. But like, all right, so with a $300 package, you get a front, you get to sit in the front 3 rows. You get dedicated entrance, grand finals bag, 3D grand finals lanyard, lenticular with lanyard. You get a meet and greet with OW All Stars, early entrance. You get waiter service in your seats. You get on-site free parking, Soldier 76 statue for the team signings, an on-stage photo, and concierge service.
That's a lot of perks.
For $299, and you get those plush seats, I think. Yes, please. Like, I've paid $200 to sit in on a bench at Lambeau Field to watch the Packers play, and you're sitting next to not fun people most of the time, and you have to have 5 hand warmers in each hand and 4 in each foot just to stay, thawed. And then you're going to pay $10 for a beer, and you have to go wait in line for 20 minutes to get the beer.
I have a random follow-up question to this.
Yes.
So, in esports, something that we see a lot in the Overwatch League is them putting hand warmers on their eyes. Have you ever gotten to that point where your face is so cold that you felt impelled to do that?
Not on my eyes. I've definitely put them up to my cheeks and my face.
Okay.
Like, I've definitely done that. But yeah, it's, I paid $200 for those seats. $299 to be like, yeah, and then you get to walk past everyone and just look at them, and like in your mind or out loud, depending on if you're me or not, you're just like, yeah, I'm better than you. No offense to all of you, but I'm better than you. And then you go sit there and be like, waiter. And then you get treated like shit. But yeah, I'm having, I would love this to happen. If this ever comes to Chicago, make it happen. I will be getting the $299 seat. Plain and simple.
Great.
So go out there, get it. Spider, I expect you to get the $299 ticket if you're avoiding me while I'm in DC.
Well, we'll reach out to him later and see what he ended up snagging. Because if he didn't, he's just doing it wrong.
Yeah. I mean, you get so much.
Well,
you get a
here's the thing,
statue
too.
out of it to have all the All-Stars signed.
It's not only that, but he'd basically be shilling out $300 just to not see you. Maybe he's considered that an additional perk.
And here's the other thing: you're in a giant parking lot, and people not in the Midwest-ish area, like Philadelphia isn't the Midwest, but they have Midwest tendencies. Don't know what proper tailgating is.
Right.
And to have a dedicated parking spot on site, you can tailgate like a mofo. If you do that, you get there 4 hours before the game. You get 2 to 3 grills going. You have some coolers with beer and mixed drinks, and you're good to go. So it's all about the experience. And honestly, the experience is almost more important than the game in a lot of instances. So, and I just would want the best experience possible if I went to something like this.
Absolutely. So outside of that, we also have the Mayhem's shift to beat an all-Korean roster finally reaching its endpoint, as they did release Vic, and also we saw their tank coach / substitute tank player S&T leave the team as well. So, you know, we saw S&T, or Awesome Guy, his former in-game name, move into a coaching position this year. And even as a substitute player, like, we weren't expecting him to play ever, and he didn't this season. But Tavik was the last remaining player from that former Misfits roster that did make up the core Mayhem roster in the inaugural season. And of course, we kind of saw how that played out, you know, being understaffed, having a bare minimum roster as well. But, you know, we've yet to see the gamble pay off so far for the Florida Mayhem. Yes, there have been moments where they've looked like a better team, but this is still a team that is basically budget Korean, so maybe this is a sign that, you know, we've heard rumors about them picking up Karayan, Gargoyle, and Myeonbun, so maybe they're going to make that announcement soon, because, you know, they did happen to release 3 players here within the last week and a half, so they conveniently have that many slots available, but we're still waiting on any announcement for that. But, you know, Ed, it's been curious. Like, we've enjoyed watching Florida a bit more since they did make the move. But how long do you give Florida before you say that this is a failed experiment?
End of stage 3. Really? I mean, they haven't really done anything. They got Fate. Yes, Fate has not looked that good. They have rumored to sign 3 other people from Korea, but we haven't heard anything about it.
Right.
Like, official. So they're probably not... If we haven't heard anything official by now...
Yeah, it'll be like...
They're not coming over.
Yeah, and if they are, it would be start of stage 4.
Exactly. So all they did was sign Fate. Is Fate going to make them a contender? No. Like, no. Like, there are so many issues with this team. You got the main tank from a bottom tier team to go to another bottom tier team. You're replacing crap with slightly less crappy. Like, that's essentially what they're doing. I give them to the end of stage 3, see how they do, and to see if these 3 new signings come on in time for stage 4. And then if they get those 3 new people, then I'll give them to the end of stage 4, and then that team needs to be blown up. You know, you really got to think, though, how much going all Korean right now is the safe bet to get middle of the road. Because when you think about it, there's really only 3 Korean teams in the Overwatch League. You know, you have the Titans, who came in as a juggernaut team before they were in the Overwatch League.
But Runaway wasn't Overwatch League ready yet.
Yeah.
At least Reddit told me so.
And then you have New York Excelsior and Seoul Dynasty. Every other team is a mixed team. Like, you're basically, unless you're getting one of these legit star Korean teams,
except London.
Sorry, London.
London are all Korea.
Forgot about London. So you have 4, but like, there's more mixed teams in the top 10 than all Korean teams. But if you go with all Korean, you're probably going to be in that 12 to 16 range of teams at best, unless you get one of these all-star full squad teams like the Titans, and there's not many of them out there.
No,
because like there's Element Mystic, but they're all like 16 and 17. They can't actually play over here. So I think they're just playing the safe route until they can kind of start to develop and scout better. Like they're aiming for that 12, 13, 14, 15th spot in the Overwatch League, so Bare Hands can actually scout talent and bring in the talent he wants, because he wasn't really able to do that before. So I still have faith that they can be good in Season 3, but I have no faith in them doing anything in Season 2 still. But they're already bottom tier. I mean, their best player isn't even playing. Like, and people are like, maybe he's just not good at goats. Well, why are you still running goats? Like, let's be honest, you suck at goats. You're just trash tier at goats. Why are you still running it? Run something different. Pull out Chengdu Hunter style. At least you'd be more interesting, and the fans would like you more, and you'd get more backing behind you.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't get why these trash tier teams are running goats, because you're obviously not good at it.
Like, it's fun if they alternate like Chengdu does, because there are times when Chengdu just decides to run goats and it kind of throws people off. But they're at least in the discussion, but they tend to float around 500. Then again, a lot of the league, right now anyway, there's a lot of parity in the league, obviously, because the circle is complete at this point, since the Stage 2 finals, since a team has beaten another team all the way around the league. But
I do want to say one thing.
Okay.
And this is the reason I'm wearing the Mayhem shirt tonight is for Pluppy.
Mm-hmm.
People know him as Tavik. I know him as Pluppy. Pluppy is the reason I am actually a fan of Overwatch esports.
Yeah, he was, for the most part, like the first person that a lot of us watched.
He was, before the Overwatch League, like, comparative to people who followed Overwatch esports before Overwatch League, he was probably bigger than Jonak, because he would go from team to team to team every single week, different teams, play for different teams, and they'd win every tournament that he would be in, just because they had him. He was the ultimate free agent. You'd just be like, I'm going to play with you and you're going to win. I'm going to play with you, you're going to win. And then he formed IDDQD, or joined IDDQD, the team, not the player, and played with them, and they were dominant.
Yeah, they initiated God mode, just like in Doom, and the rest is history.
And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to go start my Dong.
Mm-hmm.
And you laugh, but like, my Dong was dominant. And then, and then he went to Rogue, and Rogue is the team that took down Envy when Envy looked envious, and who looked unstoppable.
Which, again, was directly tied to IDDQD, because that was the iteration before.
Exactly. Like, Tavik is the OG god of Overwatch esports. And I don't think anyone can talk me out of that. Like, he is the reason a lot of people really got into Overwatch esports, because he was the man, the myth, the legend. And it's sad to see him go, because he's not going to get another shot.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I really do hope that he just pursues streaming full-time at this point, which seems to be like the most obvious situation, because that's what a lot of the other pro players have been doing if they haven't moved on to another title.
Or coaching.
Mm-hmm.
He could possibly do coaching, go the same route as Swoosh, but he would go back and coach in EU. Oh, by the way, I haven't said it yet this episode. Suck it, EU. Sorry. Had to get that in for Atlantic Showdown. But
of course.
I'm gonna miss Tavik, Pluppy. I'm sad to see him go.
Me too. But speaking of EU, just imagine, Ed, for a moment, losing in your own house. It's rough.
God, that is embarrassing.
Yeah, it's rough.
Not only did you lose once, you lost twice.
The only thing that would have made it more defeating was had they been the 5th or 6th place team. If they were in the spot that British Hurricane were in, and they were the reason that EU lost the spot, man, that would have been the ultimate, like...
Like, I'm actually, when I was watching the Atlantic Showdown, and I'm just like, I'm looking at the front row of the people behind it, I'm like, why the hell did people over there have Fusion University shirts on? Like, where do you even get those? Because I'm pretty sure Fusion University
you mean these?
Yes. But like, I know FU has a following, but you're not traveling to Europe to go watch Fusion University play.
There were parents there. I don't know how many of them were fans, as opposed to how many of them were parents. That we don't know. All we know is Sugar Dad was there, which...
Sugar Dad was there, and if you could watch it, like, Totem, you missed it. And it was possibly the greatest non-Overwatch League segment they've ever had. Ever. They brought Sugar Free's dad, Sugar Dad, out. And he was just talking about the other dads that were there. So, and like he would refer to him, he's like, oh yeah, who's the craziest back there? That's Karkar's dad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, Sugar
See,
Dad.
this is exactly why that spin-off is going to be the Dream Daddy Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
Because of moments like that.
Exactly. So,
I'll have to look into that.
How did we go from talking about Tavik to Sugar Dad?
Well, I mean, it just happens. You know, sometimes you just have to let it go. But anyways, let's jump into our main discussion for tonight and talk about Stage 3 of the Overwatch League, which does kick off here tomorrow night. So, what's new in Stage 3, Ed? Well, we have Havana Unana. See, I'm not gonna pull a Ramses and then just not say it.
Dude, I had to call out so many people yesterday at all my shows for not calling it Havana Unana. And then they looked at me like, oh, god damn it, Edinar.
You know, which is kind of normal at this point. But anyway, so we got Havana Unana in the map pool. So our map pool for Stage 3. Looking at the control maps, we have Ilios, Oasis, and Nepal. For Assault... We have Paris. Volskaya. I mean, that's better. And Horizon. For Hybrid, we have Hollywood, Eichenwald, and Nubani. And then for Escort, as we mentioned, we have Havana, Unana, Gibraltar, and Dorado. So, yeah. Like, I do not want to see Paris again. I feel like you and I have made that pretty evident. It's just... That second point in particular, there's just too much stuff going on with how many different directions there are, but like that initial choke in itself is a huge issue.
So here's, like, I think I've kind of narrowed it down to what the problem is with Paris. Is on attack, you're running probably goats the full time. Otherwise, you're going with some sort of weird Pharah Winston combination or Winston goats. Fine, dandy. On defense, the strongest thing you can do is run bunker count.
Because it's such a narrow hallway.
Exactly. But eventually, when they have ults, they're gonna beat your bunker comp. They are. And then if they're running goats and they don't need to change, you need to change into goats for point B, because as good in theory as bunker comp might be on point B, it's not. It's just not good. So you're resetting all your ults. Meanwhile, they're coming in with a higher ult advantage, higher energy on Zarya, and the momentum. And you're just steamrolling them. Like, you're not seeing point B holds really ever on Paris. And it's because they have to go with the bunker comp on point A and then switch over to goats for point B. Meanwhile, the attack team doesn't have to switch really from point A to point B. Like, if you're smart, really, you just run goats on point A and know you're just going to give up point A, but keep your ult with goats on defense so they can't steamroll you on point B. And that's a bad map development right there.
Right.
You're basically forcing people to play inoptimal like comps because the steamroll is so bad on point B. Now, could they change this? Easily. You could easily change this by having another way to get through the choke point on point A. You know, so it's not so bunker heavy. But they're probably not going to do that for a while, and especially they're not going to do it for stage 3 or stage 4. So I don't know. Paris sucks, but a lot of these maps do have bunker comps that could be playable fairly often. So you might get more bunker comps out of this. And like, I think I forget which podcast I talked about this on yesterday, but it was more of a, you have like a definite tier of players, and you're seeing it from the standings. The top tier of teams, you're looking at your Titans, Shock, and the New York Excelsior. They're running goats at all times, whether it's Reinhardt or Winston goats. And then you have the middle of the pack, and they're the ones who can't run goats as good. So they're like, okay, let's give Bunker Comp a shot. So, like, and then you have the bottom tier teams that just suck at both. But, like, the middle tier are the ones who actually run Bunker Comp. And you're going to see a lot more of it because the majority of teams are middle of the pack teams. And they know that they can't run goats as effective against the top tiers, so they're going to work on these Bunker Comps to get a slight advantage. Now, without the changes to Orisa or Diva or Baptiste coming into this patch or into this stage, it's going to be less effective than it was previously. But with these certain maps, you're going to see it more and more. So hopefully you see a little bit more than just goats, but I don't know how much better Bunker Comp is. I think personally, Bunker Comp is 10 times more boring than goats to me, because you're not actually seeing anything. You're seeing Bastion behind a shield shooting someone at range, and it's a little different than a Widowmaker. It's just like, oh, Bastion's spraying this entrance and he kills 2 people. All right. It's just more boring to me. So I don't know. I just hate Paris.
Yeah,
So
I'm really curious to see if we're gonna have the same thoughts when we see Havana Unana. Because, like, everyone kind of looked at, like, like, I'm curious, like, how is Paris going to play out? But, like, a lot of us weren't a fan of the design of Paris, especially with that front choke point. And, we saw how that panned out, so I'm hoping it's not going to be to similar effect with Havana Unana.
I could actually see some interesting comps being played on Havana Unana. Like, you have so much height advantages from a lot of locations throughout that entire map that you could see, like, a Pharah or a Widowmaker, even against goats, because you get the advantage over, like, a Ryan shield. So, like, the Zenyatta in the backline is a prime target or something like that. In a lot of cases, it will be interesting to see. We just don't know what comps are being used on this map on the pro level, because you can't go off the top 500 streams, because top 500, they're not running goats.
No.
So, like,
which we've talked about at length.
Yeah, like, so you can't take what they're running there to what Overwatch League is going to run. So it'll be interesting to see what the Overwatch League players actually run on this. I mean, by default, I'd assume it's goats, but fingers crossed.
So we are also incorporating some flex scheduling, at least on Sundays, for the matches of the week. So looking at the Strays 3 match of the weeks, for the first week, we have New York Excelsior going up against the London Spitfire. Week 2 has the Seoul Dynasty against the San Francisco Shock. Week 3, we have Dallas Fuel versus the Chengdu Hunters. Week 4, we have the Vancouver Titans going up against the LA Gladiators. And then for the travel week, for the Atlanta Homestand, we have the Florida Mayhem versus the Atlanta Reign. So, a lot of these are pretty interesting matches. I feel like the Reign kind of just got week 5 by default, because it wouldn't make sense not to have Atlanta have, like, the match of the week in an event that they're actually serving as the hosts.
That would be a little awkward. Be like, we're gonna have the Mayhem versus the Charge game of the week in Atlanta. Wah wah. But every other match, I think, is going to be great. I think I talked about this a little bit last night on OWL by the numbers. It's a lot of these matches. You're not looking for the best team. Now you're getting some of the best teams out of it, but you're looking for the best matchups. And this is not for Twitch, not for anything like that. This is strictly for TV viewership. You want close matches. on TV. You're not looking for these 3-1s, 4-0s. So yes, you're gonna see the Vancouver Titans, but they're gonna be playing the LA Gladiators, who by all accounts are the third, fourth best team. You're going to be seeing New York Excelsior versus the London Spitfire, which is like the number 3 team versus the number 5 team. And then Dallas versus the Chengdu Hunters. Honestly, nobody knows what the hell to expect there, but it should be a close, interesting match. So the odd one out is the Atlanta Reign versus Mayhem, but that's just because it's during the Atlanta homestand. So I like this. It has no effect on me because I'll still watch it through Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
But it's flex scheduling. Every sport does it. So, I am glad to see them do it.
Yep, and we'll see whether or not on Sunday my prediction of the alternate jerseys for the match of the week comes to fruition or not. Because, to me, that would just make the most logical sense that they would incorporate it like that, as opposed to just saying, hey, this is our alternate jersey day as a whole. But anyways, as you kind of aforementioned, we are not going to be playing on patch 1.37, which is the current patch that is deployed on the public test realm. That is the one with the Super McCree, or Machine Gun McCree, I think is what they're calling it, as well as the Orisa quality of life change, where she can reload and place her barrier at the same time, which makes total sense because, it's different hands and how she reloads and deploys. So patch 1.36 was more quality of life stuff with Wrecking Ball and Baptiste when it comes to placing their ultimates on moving platforms, which might come into play in Volskaya, but outside of that, probably nowhere else. So, probably not going to see a lot of iterations, unfortunately, which does mean Stage 3 is primarily going to be played as 3-3 again. So, strap in for another stage of Titans versus the Shock, most likely, for your Stage 3 finals. But I have to say, knowing this, Ed, it kind of seals the fate of some teams when it comes to the stage, or not the stage playoffs, but the play-in tournament at the end of Stage 4.
It really does, because you have certain teams that are decent teams, but they're just not strong at GOATs. The one that sticks out to me is the Guangzhou Charge. They're not a GOATs team. They're not a bad team. They're just not a GOATs team. They have a good core, with Happy and Shoo Shoo Train. And, they could really step it up. Boston is another one. I feel Boston would benefit from not running GOATs. Fusion is a big one. EQO is so bad on Baguette. I like EQO as a DPS player, but as a Baguette player, he sucks.
Yeah, it's the same with Hydration with the Gladiators.
Exactly. Gladiators, you started to really see Hydration pop off when they would run bunker comps, because they would run Far Mercy with Hydration on Pharah.
Mm-hmm.
And you could actually see Hydration be okay, that's why Hydration's so good. Hanzo Spark is another team that would benefit a lot from not running GOATs. Really, every team except the San Francisco Shock and the Titans would benefit from not running GOATs. And it will affect their stage and season playoffs. The Gladiators in New York and are up there, so I don't think they have that much to worry about. But you're looking at these 6 to 12 range that are going to be doing the playoffs, or 5 to 12, right?
It's 7 through 12. You have the top 6 teams that qualify for the season playoffs, and then the final 2 spots are determined with the play-in tournament.
Yeah, so let's see here. I'm just looking. Philadelphia outside of that. Spark outside of that. Seoul outside of that. Reign, Defiant, Boston. All teams that, if you told me they missed the season playoffs, I would not be shocked. And it's because they're not switching to GOATs. Or switching off GOATs. And not, they may get off, they're going to get off GOATs, I think, by stage 4. With some of these changes, because they have a little bit, to make more changes in the game. But yeah, it might be too little too late at that point. And it sucks, but, if you like Shock vs. Titans, then you really love not changing anything.
Yeah. I was not a fan of your terminology there, but it does kind of fit hand in hand with some of our prior talks tonight.
Wait, what did I say?
You were saying getting off.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
No, fair enough.
But anyways, getting back on track here. So, yes, we are playing on patch 1.36, and we're also getting the League replays. So, just an update on the League replays. So, again, this is going to be a standalone client. So, this will be attached to the Battle.net launcher. So, we don't know when exactly this is launching, but keep an eye on the launcher for that. So it is going to be a standalone client where you're able to replay the Overwatch League game. So, you could get the first-person view, you could spectate in third person, you could get that bird's eye view as well. And matches are going to be made available in the Overwatch League viewer the Monday after each week concludes in the US, and then, the Tuesday if you were outside the US. So I know, initially they were kind of talking about how, it was going to be, a one-day delay. But it seems like it's just a one-day delay after all of the games are played, as opposed to, just being made available that next day, which is what I thought it was initially. So it's just going to be all clumped together as opposed to released, Friday through Monday, basically, at this point.
Yeah, I believe there's actually something in the terms of service with Twitch in regards to posting things publicly in a certain time frame after they've been streamed on Twitch, which makes sense. And honestly, Overwatch League should not screw with Twitch at all, because they make so much money off of Twitch. So you know what? If they say, hey, you can't post this for 24 hours, you just say, yes, sure, okay. I mean, it's awesome. It will, like we've discussed, it's different than the replay system that you're going to get in game for your own matches. It is a separate client, just like the World Cup viewer, so you'll have to download it, but it should be beneficial. I actually will use this more than the actual replay system for my own matches, because I want to see their positioning. I want to see what they do. I want to see how the pros do it. I don't know if I'm going to get better from watching myself play or watching people better than me play. Shut up, Totem. I know you have a smart-ass comment to say.
I do.
I saw it on your face.
I do want to note, if you are not a PC user, you are shit out of luck, because it is attached to the client.
It is. For now, Papa Jeffy Cap said that they might change it. He's basically leaving the window open and not saying
Here's the thing. In order for that to happen, the Overwatch League always has to be on the current patch. And anytime they do patch, that would mess up the replay, because it would be using a different coding.
Yeah, I get it. Now, Yeah, you're shit out of luck. Sucks to be you, Xbox and PlayStation users. Get good and get a real gaming system. I went there. PC, Master Race. I have no shame in admitting that. Get a PC.
But anyways, looking at Stage 3, week number 1, kind of looking at the week, there are some pretty interesting matches. I think the Boston and the Toronto games are going to be interesting. So we have Eternal going up against Defiant. So, of course, one of the big storylines that you and I are going to be keeping an eye on is what the situation is going to be with the Toronto Defiant tank line. Because we did see them promote Sharik and God, so there's kind of the question of, are they going to start both? Are they going to start both at the main tank and off tank position? Or are they going to move Gods to the Brigitte role? Because that has been one of their issues as well. Because I'm 37, he did good initially on some of the roles, and he struggled on Zarya, and then, they made some swaps, and then put him in Brig Jail, and it's just kind of been... Toronto have kind of lost their footing, essentially, so we'll see if the promotion of Some of their Montreal Rebellion is going to invigorate and bring new life to this team. Boston has an interesting week too. Like, they face London Spitfire first, and then on Sunday they face the Eternal. We also have the Valiant, who are a team that you and I have a close eye on because we're expecting a continued upward trend for them. They opened their stage against the Shanghai Dragons, and then they close out week 1 against the Chengdu Hunters, so I'm looking forward to that one as well. But looking at, like, the grand scheme of things, like, what are some of the marquee matches that you're looking forward to in the opening week here?
All right. Well, I'll go. I'll go with one each day. So the first day, Valiant versus the Shanghai Dragons. That's going to be the first indicator for us if the Valiant are going to continue their kind of not winning ways, but their not sucking 0-7 ways. And this is the first chance you get to see of their new main tank and most likely their new DPS player. So that will be interesting, and it's a little bit of a challenge. Like, Shanghai is not a top tier team. Like, they made the playoffs in the A spot, but you know, they finished 4-3. Valiant finished 3-4. So that should be a good game that day. The next day, the one I'm looking forward to the most is the Gladiators versus the Fuel. Because I want to see the Gladiators had a fairly easy stage 2, and really kind of like they had a hard stage 1, fairly easy stage 2, and I want to see how they go up against somebody who's like a higher end middle of the pack, and see how that goes. Because, like, I mean, who's going to pick New York versus the Outlaws? No one. Outlaws are going to lose that one 4-0. On Saturday, that's probably one of the better days, but it's gotta be the Spark versus the Fusion, because I think the Spark are on the rise with Gushue really like kind of stepping things up, Crystal playing good, Bebe playing good, Godspeed playing good. You know, they really are stepping things up, and Philadelphia Fusion have just kind of been stagnant and bottom to middle tier.
Yeah, they're like a bottom elite team, basically.
Exactly.
And I'm hesitant to even say elite at this point, but who knows? Like, they're the team that has a way of finding ways to win, but then they're also a team that has a habit of not beating the other strong teams.
Exactly. And then I think the matchup of the week is on Sunday. And that is going to be the New York Excelsior versus the London Spitfire. With the second match of the week being that same day as well. But the match of the week is New York versus London. I want to see how they go, whether they both run, you know, Winston, because let's be real, they both have good Winston tanks. And I could see them both running it depending on maps, and then who really knows what happens at that point. And it's going to be a good matchup between those two. So definitely watch that one. So how about you? What are some games that stick out to you?
Well, like, for me, I'm pretty invested in the Guangzhou Charge Chengdu Hunters match, which is on Thursday as the third match. I know Nero from the Charge recently turned 18 here in the last week. I believe Jiqi Ren is also joined the Hunters officially in LA, who was, you know, one of the tanks for Miraculous Youngster, so they got a bit more of that MY core. So I'm really curious to see, like, how quickly they're going to incorporate Jiqi Ren, just because the Hunters, you know, when it comes to substitutions, what the... I think that's an airplane outside that's really loud or whatever. But anyways, Hunters have done the best job at incorporating... There's sirens outside. Hunters have been the best team to incorporate a lot of the talent out there, and they always find a spot to, you know, play their players. So I feel like when they are going to play Jiqi Ren, it's going to be really early. It's just a matter of how many maps are we going to see him in. Is it going to be, you know, similar situation where he's only going to play like one map a series, or is it going to be kind of like split time with someone else? So I'm anxious to see that. But the Charge have kind of been in a bad spot due to their strength of schedule here. in the first half of the season. They've had a lot of the top teams going up against them, and while Stage 3... Man, that's a lot of Sirens. Stage 3, they have an easier schedule. It's still very difficult. I'm trying to see where they're actually going, because, like, they're across the street right now.
Oh, I can see it in your glasses.
Yeah. Yeah, they're literally across the street from me.
Oh, shit's about to go down.
Whatever. But anyway, so outside of that, that Spark Philadelphia game is very important. Like, I feel like the Spark are really starting to come into their own here as of late. And, going with Yushui on the main tank role has definitely been the direction to go. That's always something that you and I were, really hoping to see from them, just due to kind of like the superstardom effect that Yushui has had here recently. But, outside of that, I am looking forward to Gladiators versus the Titans. The problem is, like, with the Titans, I don't want to say I'm stagnant in regards to, like, how confident I am with that team, because they are 14-0 right now. But, like, the Gladiators haven't really proven to me yet that they can beat the top 3 teams in the league, so there's part of me that thinks, like, I don't know whether or not the Gladiators are actually going to become challengers, or if they're going to continue to kind of be like a gatekeeper team in the Overwatch League. So, I don't know. But I feel like the Gladiators should do pretty well against the Dallas Fuel. Because Dallas Fuel seems to not show up more than they actually do show up. But for me, overall, I think, like, the Uprising Spitfire game probably has the most intrigue to me as a whole, outside of the Valiant and Hunters game. But there's a lot of intriguing matches, and a lot of matches between, like, the 7-7, or, like, one game above, one game below. So there's a lot of, like, the 7th through 16th ranked teams going up against one another. So I'm hoping that means we're going to start to see a little bit more differential in regards to not only the records, but also the map differences as well.
Now, one thing I will say, you were talking about, and I'm going to butcher the name, so I'm just going to call him Jamiroquai from the Chengdu Hunters, their new tank that they just got, Jakirin. But do you think he's going to, like, me personally, I think he's going to, I don't know if I want to say he's going to take over for Ameng, but I feel that because he is more of a Reinhardt tank. And Reinhardt went to more of a traditional tank, less of a hamster tank. And they could bring him in to run, to the dismay of a lot of people, a more traditional GOAT comp on certain maps.
Right.
And
and I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm going to see what's happening really quick. If you don't mind holding things down for a couple of minutes.
I can talk.
Because I know I dropped my phone at some point during the podcast, and I have no idea where it's at either. It's probably somewhere underneath my desk. And it's going to be muted too, so, like, if someone's trying to text me right now, I just need to make sure they're not here for someone here.
All right. No, like, I feel that I don't think they're going to get rid of Ameng from the Chengdu Hunters, because he has been a staple, and their triple DPS has been so good. But in certain maps, you could definitely see something like Jakirin or Jamiroquai, as I'm just going to say it because I'm just going to butcher the name, and Elsa running a traditional GOATS comp. And then you have, your Gary, Kaio, Yvettel, depending on who you want to put in there for support. And then you have Bacon, Jack, and Jinmu kind of running the Zarya Brig role. Like, you could definitely do that and bring out a Meng, and you could probably be more effective. Like, as much as you want to love the Chengdu Hunters for not playing GOATs, there's a reason they didn't make the playoffs. And there's a reason that they're not in that 7 to 12 range for the season to get into the playoff race of the 7 through 12. They need to change something. They're the most fun team to watch, but sometimes the most fun team to watch is not the most effective. Like, I get that, Trenchfoot, Like, if they replace A-Mag, a lot of people will be super pissed off at the Chengdu Hunters. But sometimes you have to do what's best to win. And that's something that they need to do. So I don't know what they're going to do here. It will be interesting because if you think about it, Jamiroquai, he came from the same team as the head coach of the Chengdu Hunters. So there's a reason if you are a head coach of a team and you bring in a main tank from your last team, there's a reason you brought him in. So I don't know. They could pull off like a half and half, like half and half goats, half A-Man triple DPS type of comp. And I can see that happening just because they do need to get a few more wins this stage to qualify for the 7 through 12 range, because right now they're at like 13 or 14. They're at 14, so they're not looking too good.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be interesting to see what they actually do.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what's going on. There's a ton of sirens outside. Like, I know, like, my neighbor works a lot on this car, so I don't know if, like, something fell on him or the jack gave out or whatever, but anyways, so outside of that, of course I'm going to be invested in what the Dynasty are going to do, whether or not they are going to do any changes based off of the leaked screenshots. We'll see if we get Highly or Illicit or Fisher, or if they're going to stick with the B team that we've been seeing pretty consistently, because they do face, the Florida Mayhem to open up the stage, which should be a pretty straightforward game, and then their second game is also against the Guangzhou Charge, so it's going to be a fairly easier week for the Dynasty. But, like, if you're going to look to do, like, something a little bit different, like, now would not be a bad time to do it when they are facing lesser teams, so to speak.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a week to throw things out there and see what sticks. Like, I don't really care what they do, because outside of Jaehong and Michelle, I think every spot is basically up for grabs on that team. I think those two should be staples. I think Michelle has proven himself as a good off tank / good, like, Sombra flex. And Jaehong has been, honestly, what we all thought he'd be in Season 1, in one of the top supports in the game. And he's that right now. So outside of those two, this is against the Mayhem. It's the perfect time to bring in Highly Illicit and see what they can bring to the stage. So it'll be interesting because they are playing two of the bottom 4 teams in the league. If you don't bring it out now, you're not going to bring it out after that. Like, Seoul Dynasty are one of those teams that could. I'm just looking real quick who they play.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. They don't have a great schedule after week 1.
No.
They actually have a ridiculously hard schedule. So, they have to figure it out week 1. Otherwise, they're going to stick with whatever they play. And Trenchfoot, Fisher's not going to play. Let's just get that out there right now.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it was just the playstyle clashes, and that was one of the things that I brought up when we initially heard about that sign-in, because he does play very aggressive. But, I know we're getting pretty close to 2 hours, Ed, so let's go ahead and close out the show for tonight. So if you guys want to help us out, one of the best things to do is to go leave us a review over on iTunes or your podcast and app of choice. Of course, if you're on, like, Stitcher or whatever, we still get those reviews in our review app. So any sort of feedback or constructive criticism is always welcomed, and it'll offer us insight on how we can make for a better listening experience for you. And we do have a new review over on iTunes, which was a 5-star review, and this one was from Sabres Fan 2018, who recently followed our channel. I think that was like yesterday, so we appreciate that. He says best. This was the title of the review, and I just threw it in there anyway. He says best Overwatch podcast ever, and then he gave us a Pog Champ.
thank you, Sabres fan 2018. I'm assuming you're a Sabres fan.
I mean, I would assume so,
on a limb.
because their Twitch avatar was the Sabres logo.
Okay, is that Buffalo? Little too close to Canada for my comfort. But I appreciate the 5-star review anyway. I mean, you can't take it back. That's the good thing. No? All right.
Well, I mean, Trenchford is saying that he went to college in Buffalo and he gave his condolences. So
They have good wings.
I don't think that's how that works.
I don't know. I feel they have good wings. They have a really bad football stadium. I don't know. I got nothing.
Got nothing.
Blevins lives there, or right around there.
Yeah.
That's really all I know about Buffalo.
Okay, that your knowledge doesn't expand anything outside of that. But anyways, guys, if you want to find additional Overwatch-related content, do so by checking out Overwatch Recall, where you can find a listing of different podcasts out there on our website. And then every Sunday night, I release the episodic listings of all the prior week's episodes, which is usually anywhere from like 18 on a slow week to 32, 34 on a very busy week. But to find the latest on Overwatch Recall, follow us on Twitter at OWRecall. If you guys would like to support our podcast network further, you can do one of two things. You could throw us your Twitch Prime subscription, or Twitch Prime subs. You know, we appreciate that, because, you know, it doesn't really cost you anything, at least on Twitch. But you can also consider checking out our Patreon page. We have tiers starting at just $1 a month. You can find more information at patreon.com/OWL Network, so you too can join the likes of our master and above patrons, Blazabob, Brendan, Jay-Z, which I'm gonna call him. And if you didn't listen to OWL by the numbers, you'll understand why, because we don't want to butcher his name time and time again. And Owl in helping our network grow, and Owl is actually our newest patron who just pledged here recently, so special shout out to Owl for doing that. We appreciate all of the support you guys have thrown our way. And of course, we can't forget we got a game night coming up that is going to be on Saturday, June 15th, kicking things off at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So join us for a night of custom games, workshop modes, plenty of shenanigans. You know, you can come and talk trash to Ed and I. You know, it's going to be a good night. And of course, you know, we'll be streaming the games on our channel. We'll be hanging out in Discord. Game nights are always a blast, and I hope everyone can make it out to join us.
What I hear is people are really excited to come to this game night to shoot me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with this.
See, like, before, like, I would only go just to shoot Bob. Because that's where our rivalry budded from.
Yeah, but now people will show up to be like, I really want to take down Ednar. And I'm not going to lie, it's going to be super easy for you to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I am not what you would call skilled, and I'm still learning how to not play on 5,000 DPI mouse.
Mm-hmm.
So, definitely come out for this.
It'll be a good time. But outside of that, of course, you know, I did guest on the Omnic Weekly. Go check that out when you could hear me talking about BlizzCart. We are going to have a new episode for Hack the Planet dropping here for our Path to Pro podcast. We'll be recording that tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. But Ed, we do have a number of different ways how listeners can get a hold of us, so why don't you go ahead and let them know how they can do that?
All right. Well, you can reach us through email, and that's at hndoverwatch@gmail.com. We are on Twitter, so you can come over there at hndoverwatch. We do have a website where we post all our podcasts, any of our YouTube streams, anything like that at owlandshow.com. We do have a YouTube channel, and that's youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. We are on Discord, which you will need to join our game nights, and that's discord.me/OWLNshow. We are streaming presently live on Twitch at twitch.tv/OWLNshow. So we are a Twitch affiliate, so help support the show by subscribing to our channel and earn our network emoticon. Our podcast network does stream pretty regularly. So on Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific, we have the Overwatch League Network. And then Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, we have OWL by the Numbers, which is a show Totem and I do along with Ramsey's Blaze and Bob. And that's a fantasy Overwatch League podcast. We have this show, Heroes Never Die, which airs Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. And then host streams, when available, will fall on Mondays at 5 p.m. Pacific with Totally Drunk. And Spider tends to stream on Thursdays and sometimes Fridays around like 7:30 p.m. Pacific. If you were on our Discord, you'd probably know exactly when they would be streaming it, just saying. As Totem mentioned earlier, we do have a Patreon at patreon.com/OWL Network. So come over there. Any help you can give us, tier start at just $1, it'd be much appreciated. You can contact me personally at Edanar Overwatch. That's EDANAR Overwatch. And you can tweet all your hate at me, and I will bathe in the hate.
Or you can email us, too.
Or email us.
That's usually the primary Ed hatred platform.
Mm-hmm. Except I don't get the email directly,
No.
so I can't.
I relay.
bathe in it. Yeah, I can't bathe in the hate as quick as if you just tweeted at me.
Yeah, I should just forward you all the emails, and then you could print them out, and then you can just like keep a folder.
Yeah, like I actually make it a green screen behind me with all my hate emails.
So that would be perfect.
Totem, where can they find you online?
Well, I'm over on Twitter at TotallyDrunkCTR. When you can find that internal struggle to be deciding what artwork I'm going to retweet and what I'm not. Because, you know, that's the thing. I need to do a Totem After Dark account, I feel like. So people can follow all the shenanigans that goes on outside of that. But, you know, you can find me, you know, bashing Bob a lot, you know, Outlaws fans, all that good stuff. Or just talking about horror movies, because, you know, who doesn't love a good scare? But I do want to thank everyone again for hating out tonight for Heroes Never Die. This has been episode number 163. I've been your host, Simply Drunk, joined, as always, by my co-star, Edanar, and we hope to see you guys back next week for really any of our network podcasts. We will see you then, guys. Take care, and have a good night.
Have a good one, guys.